explosion in Oklahoma, probably one of the most outrageous, disgusting acts or events in our history, at least in the last 50 years in the United States. And the American patriots have worried about these types of events taking place and the possibility, whether they're done and carried out by bad persons that may want to move us into the elimination of our constitutional rights, or if they're just used or utilized as a tool by those people that would like to tighten up and eliminate the Constitution or eliminate your basic constitutional rights. Either way, it doesn't make any difference. We did witness, after the Oklahoma bombing, the immediate attempt to do exactly that, to pass terrorist legislation, as Adolf Hitler did after the Reichstag in Germany. Hitler came forward before his people and said, give me the power to arrest these people. Give me individually, put the power in the presidency. Let me have the power to arrest those persons that are involved. We saw the same thing happen in the United States of America 50 years later with the explosion of the Oklahoma building, the federal building in Oklahoma. Bill Clinton immediately came forward and attempted to run this outrageous terrorist bill through, which included search and seizures without warrants and every other outrageous piece of garbage that you could imagine to eliminate your rights. They tightened up all over the place, telling us we had terrorists in our backyard, and we have to do this, and you have to give up some of your freedoms. You have to give up your freedom on the basis of this terrorism. The truth is, in my opinion, I don't know, maybe what the definition might be for everyone, but terrorism commonly is an event when some group or characters or whatever it may be say we're going to mandate, we want this and this and this. If we don't get it, then we're going to do this or we're going to do that. After the event, they come forward, claim that they did it and that they were going to do something else, and therefore it becomes terroristic in nature. That's not the case here. They never called the mad bomber in the 50s that ran all over New York City, blowing up buildings, or not, excuse me, not blowing up buildings, blowing up the subways, if I remember correctly, and I was just a youngster at that time. They called him a mad bomber. He certainly was not called a terrorist, and they didn't use it to pass laws to forbid you to walk on the street at night. They didn't use it to eliminate your constitutional rights. And as many of you know, part of that program was laid out to demonize the militia patriots in the United States of America. And it was used as a tool very specifically by a controlled media, ABC television, to be very specific, took a presentation that Lieutenant Colonel Bo Greitz had made, a public appearance, where he had already scheduled it. It was a regular appearance of Bo's. He spoke at that small group, someplace I believe in Denver, and at that appearance, someone asked him about the bomb, and he was talking in general terms about the bomb and the event. This is very, very close, almost a day or two after the bombing had taken place. And he described it from a munitions expert's background. He described it as being an extremely well done bombing. And the term that he used, and he was pointing out, as a matter of fact, that this bombing would not have been done randomly by a few loose cannons, as you will. That had to be really very well schooled persons that carried out this type of a bombing. And the terminology he used was, this was like, in comparing it to a painting, this would have been considered to be a Rembrandt of an explosion, of a demolition explosion. That the expertise involved here would have made it excellent as a quality of like the equivalent of a Rembrandt of a painting of an explosion. Certainly not saying that this was a wonderful piece here. Certainly not saying that this thing was, that it was good or that anything in that direction, but saying that the quality of the expertise involved in this explosion was far beyond that of what one might expect from a loose cannon or disgruntled ex-Marine. ABC television took that out of context, went on the air with it, Brian Ross and Peter Jennings discussing it. And Brian Ross said, see, there we go. All they showed was the fact that Bogarde said that this was a Rembrandt. And Brian Ross, in front of 12 million people on the Peter Jennings news report, said, well, there you go, Peter. Bogarde thought it was a Rembrandt of an explosion that killed the babies. They also, at the same time, took out of context one of the newsletters from the Militia of Montana. The newsletter, the Militia of Montana newsletter we'd put out a week or, I guess it was probably the previous month coming into it. And we were warning people about April 19th because we had been notified by a Federal Bureau of Investigation agent. We had been supplied from him a satanic schedule, a satanic calendar. Wow, that's pretty strange. And Ted Gunderson, a former agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, had many years ago actually put together this outrageous calendar that he had discovered in Satanism. And it showed that April the 19th was a time when, for Satanists to destroy children and going into some type of a festival of Satan. And along with that and a few other things, we had pointed that out in a newsletter. We also had someone who was about to be executed on the 19th of April. And we had asked for people to get off of their hands and to move. It was a time for action, was the quote. The action being contact the governor and try to stop the execution on a fellow patriot. That also was taken out of context by this disgusting news reporting and was put on that we had called, by saying take action now, that we had called for some kind of event like that blowing up of that building, which is outrageous, immoral reporting by a controlled media that is absolutely working with those people that would want to portray American patriots as bad guys. Later on, we had Bill Clinton make the statement of how dare the American patriots call themselves American patriots. How dare we call ourselves patriots for even questioning the government? On another tape, we'll discuss that, but that's, he needs to go back and read the Declaration of Independence. Everybody needs to reread the Declaration of Independence. But what happened was, with the Senate and Congressional inquiry that they put together, they requested the members of the militia from around the country to come forward to the Senate and talk on terrorism, testify, if you will, as to what is the Patriot and militia movement all about. And we did that, and at that particular hearing, I made the statement to Senator Specter, Arlen Specter of Pennsylvania, that there certainly was more than one bomb that went off in Oklahoma. The back end of that was that Senator Specter requested myself to put together a report, which I then did, and it actually took about 2 months to be able to accomplish the report. We have now hand-delivered it to Arlen Specter and the Senate. And I want to go over basically what we came up with in our report to the Senate on the Oklahoma bombing. The first point, according to experts that utilize fertilizer, the material that they claim was in the yellow truck, the very first point is that that fertilizer type material, if you put it into 8 or 9 or 10 different barrels, which is what they claim, inside of a truck, you instantly have a problem because you no longer have a singular explosive device. You now have 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever it would have been. So you have kind of a trick in terms of detonating it simultaneously, instantly. As a matter of fact, according to the experts and the people who even make it, that's almost totally a physical impossibility in 8 or 9 or 10 different containers. So now they claimed, as a matter of fact, it was interesting because the bomb, when it started off, they said was about a 1,000-pound bomb that would have done it. The following day, the bomb was considered to be 2,000 pounds. A day or two later, they said it was at least 2,500 pounds. Within another day or two, it had reached the size of about 3,500 pounds. And finally, after milling it over, they decided the bomb was probably 4,000 pounds or 4,500 pounds. So now what we had here, of course, for starters, was a bomb that grew on a daily basis in a means by which to fit this into the story they're telling us, and that was that this truck pulled up in front of the building, parked, was detonated, and blew this whole building to smithereens as we saw it. Well, the experts, for one thing, point out that there's a couple problems with that. Either way you mix these fertilizer pellets with this fuel oil, which is what they told us was done here, either way you mix it, if you mix it too much one way or not enough the other, it puts out two different caustic, toxic fumes, very profuse. And they're each are a little different depending on what the mixture is, but nonetheless it's so toxic that typically you would not be able to walk into the area, not even walk in the area for quite a bit of time. I mean, you wouldn't be able to breathe, and it would have been like that black residue in the air like we saw in the Twin Towers explosion. If you folks will remember the black all over people's faces and choking and coughing, there's no way you could breathe in the area. None of that existed with this particular bomb. Now, additionally, the experts tell us that about 10% of this bomb would not, in fact, even be detonated. Well, let's see. If we're talking 4,500 pounds of this bull, then we're talking 400 pounds of residue that would not have been exploded, the particles themselves, and it would have been splattered all over the area. Well, there was none in the area. Well, son of a gun. Well, it was some kind of a bomb. We certainly know that the truck blew up. But then we also get with the experts and we find out, for example, that if you had as much as a 4,000-pound explosive in this truck, the pressure, as you can see here I want to show you this diagram right here, the pressure immediately next to the vehicle, if you were standing next to it, would be almost 500,000 pounds per square inch. I mean, which is devastating, 500,000 pounds potential. If someone was standing directly next to the truck at the point of explosion, it would be totally vaporized. There's no question about that. But an interesting thing happens in a above-ground open-air explosion, which technically is what this was, without being directed and not being some kind of a special device or a directional bomb. What happens here is by the time the power, the force blast, the pushing strength of this bomb has reached inside to the building, where they tried to tell us it sheared off columns on the third floor. By the time it reaches that point, it's diminished to about 46 pounds per square inch. That's sort of like you and your friend kicking the side of a pillar of hardened cement with 1-inch rebar inside, steel reinforcement, iron reinforcement inside, and shearing it off with the force of your kick. Somehow I don't buy that story. Additionally, if you'll notice here from this picture, you'll notice that these columns here were the ones that were sheared off. They're gone. That's what brought that section of the building down. You see how it's dropped down here and fallen down like a pancake configuration, one floor on the other, obviously causing quite a bit of damage. But regardless of that, where this column was, right here in this area where the column was, if you look over next to it, these columns have not even had damage to the face of simple plasterboard. 1/2-inch plasterboard has not even been affected by the blast, only a few feet away on another column. What's wrong with that picture, folks? It's not going to happen. Physical impossibility. We are being lied to on this bomb. Additionally, the force would have blown material where the truck was, would have blown everything away. You can see here in this footage, there's debris actually on the roof of the building across the street. That's impossible. Absolutely impossible. You cannot have a blast going in one direction and have material all over the place in the other side, in the opposite direction. Then we get to one of the more interesting points of the second and third bomb that was inside the building that did in fact shear off those columns, set inside by an insider. What we have here is the seismographic charts that were taken that day. This first blast you can see here, this blast was the major blast, probably the truck. These other two glitches show either one or two secondary explosions that probably were the ones inside that sheared off the pillars. They would have to have been set specifically on the pillars. And my impression of what I've gone over for the last few months, which includes talking to experts, talking to FBI agents and everyone you could imagine, some 37 different people involved here. My impression is that there was two other bombs that went off inside, and that there was two other bombs that did not go off and were retrieved. Let's watch a little bit of this footage here.
Agents who were caught up in the bombing are now working the case, and they have determined, of course, as we know now, that it was a bomb. A second bomb was found, and there are reports of a third bomb. We don't have that confirmed.
Now, let's look once again at this picture, if you will. This is the center line. Right here is where the truck was parked. This is where the hole was, where the truck was parked. The center line does not have anything to do with the center line of damage, if you'll notice over here. This is where the line of damage is. This is where the truck line of damage would have been. Uh-oh, now what we have is not only a bomb that's selective as to what columns it takes off, and apparently grew in strength as it left the truck, got bigger, but it also went around corners here, folks. It went over to the side and committed most of the damage over on one side as opposed to directly in front, where by nature it would have to have caused the damage. So it appears that they're lying to us about not only the type of bomb that would have been in the truck, but they're also lying to us relative to its strength and its ability, and whether there was other ones or not. Interestingly enough, in Bill Clinton's paperwork that he put together, which really is the executive order sufficient for martial law, done in June the 7th of 1994, a year ago, a full year prior to the bomb, he completely describes the fertilizer bomb and the materials in the bomb in that truck as material that would be confiscated during the national emergency. So it's kind of interesting. We have a president that psychically can know ahead of time that these would be fertilizer materials that we may not want people to have when we declare a national emergency. It's a little sidebar, I suppose, there. The other parts that don't fit in or need to be explained, I guess, relative to the bombing, is the fact that there was literally an advance notice done by the marshal's office, as you can see here, done by the marshal's office ahead of time that there may be a bombing in the federal building. Well, they kept that one pretty quiet. And this was some 2 or 3 weeks prior to the bomb. Additionally, we've had strange events happening. We had this, I'm going to watch this videotape here. This shows this little lady, Edie Smith, that lost 2 beautiful little children inside the building. And when she started questioning what the story was on the bomb, how come they weren't looking at second and third bombs? How come they weren't paying attention to the fact that there was absolutely no ATF agents killed inside that building at all? They weren't, hardly any of them were there. They were given an opportunity, apparently, to come into work or not come into work that day. She started asking those questions, and I want you to watch this video. It speaks for herself.
They were being told to keep our mouth shut, and I've talked about it, don't ask those questions, and I think things are going to get a lot busier.
What kind of questions have people been telling you to keep your mouth shut about?
Well, just from the very beginning, we, along with hundreds and thousands of other people, want to know, and we just innocently ask questions, you know, where was ATF? All 15 or 17 of their employees survived, and they're on the 9th floor. They were the target of this explosion. And where were they? Did they have a warning sign? I mean, did they think it might be a bad day to go in the office? They had an option to not go to work that day, and my kids didn't get that option. Nobody else in the building got that option. And we're just asking questions. We're not making accusations. We just want to know, and they're telling us, keep your mouth shut, don't talk about it.
Well, what can I say? She has the questions that needs to be answered. A more bizarre event takes place when we found out, relative to this bomb, we found out that the governor's brother, Governor Keating's brother, has been working on a book manuscript for maybe a year and a half or so now. And in his manuscript, which he had partially at least done through this point, he writes up about a terrorist explosion, an event in Oklahoma City, horrible, horrible terrorist event taking place, and how a police officer pulls over a guy that's wanted for this outrageous event. He pulls him over because his taillight was not working properly. The officer doesn't know that this guy happens to be wanted for questioning in this terrorist activity. And he tickets him, and then, however, brings him in, arrests him, and realizes that he was wanted for this inquiry relative to a terrorist act in Oklahoma. Now remember, this is a book done a year ago by the governor's brother of Oklahoma. The name of the fellow that's pulled over is Tom McVeigh. The name of the fellow that was pulled over by the officer by chance, because he had no license plate on his vehicle a short time after the bombing, was named Tim McVeigh in real life. And Tom McVeigh pulled over by accident in a story written a year ago by the governor's brother of Oklahoma. I know, it's just a coincidence. Have a mathematician run that coincidence, coming up with the name Tim McVeigh and Tom McVeigh, and a vehicle randomly pulled over by a police officer per chance after an Oklahoma terrorist act. Run that through some mathematicians and see what the percentage chances are of that. And if there aren't any questions to be asked about that, well, then we'll just forget about that one also and mark it up as coincidence. Then we had the disgusting intimidation of witnesses here. Of course, they first off demonized Tim McVeigh. Apparently in the United States of America, people are assumed guilty the moment somebody picks them up or points a finger at them. That seems to be the new method of operation for the law enforcement. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. Let's stick to the Constitution. Let's stick to the basis that you're innocent until proven guilty, for starters. Let's not, because when it happens to you, then you're going to really be upset. You'll be yelling and screaming and asking for people to help you out because they're saying you did something and you didn't do it. Let's keep everybody on the same even keel, and that is that you're innocent until proven guilty. They threatened with outrageous garbage and pressure the little sister of Tim McVeigh. Tim McVeigh's sister was picked up every day for a week, hidden off in a motel room by FBI agents and other agents of the government, questioned and interrogated, told that if she didn't come forward and start telling them information about Tim McVeigh, obviously looking for information that would indicate that he was guilty, that she was going to end up getting life or the electric chair for killing these little babies. Tim McVeigh's sister harassed 8 to 10 hours a day in an enclosed motel room with pictures hanging on the wall showing her and Tim McVeigh and babies and burnt buildings and all the rest of that kind of garbage on a regular basis. FBI's been taking a lot of heat for falsely putting together artificial evidence all over the place. That came out in the Simpson trial. The FBI's taken a lot of heat relative to the Waco and the Weaver and all those episodes and all the rest of that. They damn well should take some heat for this one too. Contact somebody and ask them what the story is with the intimidation of Tim McVeigh's sister, who had nothing to do with this at all. Nothing to do with this. You want to know, and the most outrageous point, in her apartment, when they went through, there was a newspaper story that came out that she had extremist right-wing material, extremist right-wing material in her apartment that included the Constitution of the United States. And that was considered to be extreme right-wing. We've got a problem. Additionally, if you look here, I'm going to go back to the scene of the bombing. If you'll look, you can see from the, right here, again, showing some of the damage and where it does and does not fit. You'll notice, again, that the material on the roof fell in. When the building collapsed, it fell inward. If this tremendous blast from the truck went outward, it would have blown this weatherproofing material in an outward direction and probably ripped it and torn it. But it didn't, because the stanchions were taken out down here, and when it pancaked down, this material fell down. As you can see, it's draped here down. Now, FBI agent Ted Gunderson, I'm going to show you a little bit here of an interview done by him. 27 years in the Federal Bureau of Investigation. When he left the FBI, when he retired, he had 700 agents working for him and a budget of $22 million a year to run his branch office. And he was oversight over Los Angeles as well as a couple other major cities. Ted Gunderson has come forward and said, without a doubt, this event was utilized by the United States government to demonize the Patriot movement and demonize the militia and those people that are involved with it. And he comes forward. I want you to watch some of this video.
I'll have to say, in all honesty, in all sincerity, there's no question in my mind, and this is my opinion, that an incident occurred or was established or happened that was planned, and the purpose of that was to enrage the American public, and to make sure and force Congress to pass anti-terrorism legislation, which we do not need, but which at the same time would imperil our civil liberties and further erode our civil rights and help destroy what we believe in our Constitution.
This briefly is the diagram of one of the bombs that the bomb expert that works and manufactures covert secretive bombs for the CIA, Michael Riconosciuto, who through my personal investigations back in '88, I was aware of his operations and things that he had been doing for the government. This is an outline, a general diagram of the bomb that in fact Ted Gunderson and Riconosciuto both feel were probably used inside the building. Additionally, General Parton, a military officer, retired, who formerly actually advised the Department of Defense and the President of the United States and the military advisors relative to weaponry for years. He's an explosive demolition expert. He has also come forward and said, without a doubt, there were charges placed inside the building, blew those columns off, blew those columns out, and destroyed that building. He said there's absolutely no way that the external fertilizer truck bomb could have done this job. This is a guy that his level of expertise in explosives goes all the way up through nuclear and has advised the president and the president's staff on weaponry for years. General Parton. So he totally agrees, and I want you also now look at this. You're going to see a couple people here coming out of the building and describing what is in fact a second and a third bomb.
California for many years, and it was almost like slow motion. I felt a shake and then began shaking more, and I dove under my desk, and then the glass all came in. I think that helped save me. All the glass was gone. It's all over the office.
Where's your office located? Can you point to it?
We're on the 5th floor, right on the end.
Pickup truck backing a trailer into the scene here. They're trying to move people out of the way so they can get it in. Appears to be the Oklahoma County Bomb Squad. It's their bomb disposal unit, essentially, is what it is, and it is what they would use to, if the report that we gave you just a few moments ago turns out to be correct, that they have found a second explosive device of some kind inside this building. They'll back that trailer down there, and the bomb squad folks will go in And they will use that, that trailer. You see the bucket on the back there, sort of, this is how they would transport the explosive device away from this populated area to try to do something with it.
Suzanne, can you tell us anything new?
Yes, Lee, I can. The Oklahoma City Police and the FBI have confirmed there is another bomb in the federal building. It's in the east side of the building. They've moved every...
But we also are getting word right now that 2 more explosive devices have been found in the building. That's what we're getting right now. 2 more explosive devices found in the building, so the fright and shock also turning to anger at this point. Let's go to...
And as we told you earlier, perhaps two bombs found in the building since the explosion. One of those has been disarmed, and they continue to try to bring more people alive out of that building.
Dave Balut here joining me. Dave, what do you have to add?
Well, I just took a look down the street at the Morrow building again. I see another bomb truck going, so apparently they're going to try to get out that 3rd bomb that's been talked about. Still a lot of activity around the Morrow building. Security concerns that another one still might go off. That's what everybody's worried about.
That's the reason they have moved the media. Everyone's back.
And as rescue workers were finally able to get in and started the evacuation process, everything was brought to a screeching standstill when bomb-sniffing dogs alerted the authorities that there were further explosive devices inside the building. We've had varying reports of how many there were, perhaps 2, perhaps 3. We do know that they have defused several of them, perhaps 2, perhaps 3.
There is apparently reports that a 3rd explosive device, another bomb, we don't know if it's 3 or 4, but perhaps another bomb has been found inside that federal building. They are moving everyone back once again. This would be the 4th time that this has happened.
This has happened. One question we have, Ron.
What about the other devices that were allegedly found and then taken in custody? Are these valued pieces of clues?
Tremendously valuable. Since they did not explode and apparently have been successfully disarmed from what we hear, that will give us a chance to look at how they twisted their wires. What kind of components did they use? Perhaps there's a unique component in there that we could trace right to the source. That is a tremendously valuable piece of evidence.
Additionally, to those people that you just saw there, right at the scene, 2 minutes after the event, 10 minutes after the event, we have a judge, the secretary of a judge, two blocks up the road, that said the first bomb went off. I knew what it was. I leaped from my desk. I started down the hall, and the second bomb knocked me on my tail. This is a secretary to a judge about 2 blocks, a block and a half away. A former Vietnam veteran, a highly respected lawyer in Oklahoma City, said the same thing. He heard 1 bomb and then he heard a second bomb, if not a 3rd one. If we don't demand an inquiry into the 2nd and 3rd bombs, then we are letting all those people that died in the bombing, including the children, we're letting them down. The other outrageous points that has to be brought out, unfortunately, that this poor little lady, Edie Smith, when people were sending money to her through the governor's office and through the Red Cross as assistance in her grief, the loss of her 2 children, the checks, many of them, and here's one of them here, many of these checks were in fact cashed by other people. She never got the money. God bless America in a time of need, huh? That's pretty outrageous. Now, there's another event relative to the bombing that's almost, it reminds me of the Kennedy assassination. We had Lee Harvey Oswald, who was completely a patsy. The only guy ever to say anything honest during that entire inquiry, I think, when the Kennedy thing took place, is Harvey Oswald himself, when he was being brought out of prison, or brought from the jailhouse, and he said, "I am a patsy." We have that over again. The reproduction of the garbage. Back then we were told that it was a single bullet. Now we're being told it was a single bomb. And it's both malarkey. It was interesting. Watch this little bit out of our Senate inquiry relative to terrorism with Arlen Specter. Arlen Specter was the one that came up with a single bullet concept. The single bullet concept.
3 days after John F. Kennedy was killed, everybody believed that Lee Harvey Oswald did it. Today, many of us doubt that he alone did it. and you're the single bullet theorist, and you believe that he alone did it, we don't necessarily hold to that opinion, sir.
Well, if we can leave the single bullet theory for another day.
That's your choice.
A short time after the bombing took place and everything was settled down, there was some more outrageous acts. This is where it connects to covering up, as we know, all the cover-up that went in the Kennedy assassination. There were people killed. As a matter of fact, there ended up being 100 people killed, 200 people killed that were witnesses or connected to witnesses. Anybody that knew anything in the Kennedy thing was taken out. And the cover-up was immediate. They dismantled Kennedy's limousine. Why would you ever do that? They dismantled it. They dismantled it because there was another bullet or two in it, and that would have screwed up the single bullet theory. That's part of the reason. Well, what did they do with the Oklahoma building? They immediately destroyed it. They blew it apart. Now let me tell you what they did. They came in with tons and tons of dirt and filled it. After they picked up the basic debris, they filled it in totally so you cannot go in and chemically do any analysis inside the pillars inside the building. We could have gone in chemically and found out what kind of a bomb was used, or we would have found out that there was no bomb inside. Either way. But those people that knew damn well there were bombs inside destroyed that building. The architect that built it said it's only if 30% of the thing destroyed, it's totally stable. We can absolutely rebuild the building and have it good as new in 9 months. Now, they blew it up, folks. You can see it. They blew it up so that nobody could do testing. The material was taken to a special dump site, and there have been guards 24 hours at the dump site so that people wouldn't go in and do any testing inside where that material is. What's wrong with that picture, folks? And then we had what's almost out of an outrageous, terrible act, almost something that's humorous. You can see here, this is a letter that came originally from the medical examiner in Oklahoma. They had found, you heard about it on the news, on the synthetic news at night, that they had found a leg inside a boot, had been severed off. It had some camouflage clothing on it, as in a military uniform, in a boot wearing a couple of socks. This letter, as you can see, explains that it appears to be a Caucasian white male leg, and goes on even to describe its approximate height and weight of the person, which is easy to do with forensics. However, guess what happened, folks? 15 days later, when it came back out of the laboratory, it had undergone a sex change. It is now a female leg. Not only had it gone a sex change, but it has also gone a racial change. It is now a black female leg. Now, then, with the press release, they said, since it was a black female leg, apparently it had nothing to do with any of the people that were carrying out the bombing. So forensics now have gone to an extreme step beyond what we could ever imagine. Not only does it have a sex and a color change, but now we can tell whether it was a motivated person to be involved with a bombing from just looking at the lower part of a human leg. Unfortunately, that's almost humorous in the middle of an outrageous cover-up by our government once again. You need to contact people at the highest level, because the application and use of this outrageous event to move the one world government forward to interfere with your constitutional rights is out of control, and you need to contact people right away and put a stop to it. Let them know about this tape. Let all your senators and congressmen know that the report is available, has been delivered to Senator Specter's office. All of it, completely. Let them know that Senator Thompson from Tennessee also has it in his office, hand-delivered by myself personally. And let's find out how many senators and congressmen are going to look at this and review it and decide, like they should, that there's something amiss here and that it needs to be looked into. The professionals have stepped forward and told you what really went on at that building. Let's find out if, in fact, anybody's going to do anything? Or are we looking at a Lee Harvey Oswald once again? We have information, as a matter of fact, that the evening before, that the yellow truck was delivered by Tim McVeigh to someone in a McDonald's parking lot. There was 2 cameras there that apparently our understanding is picked up the activity. Tim McVeigh came and delivered the keys and took a few bucks for delivering the truck. If that's the case, that changes it right away. Both cameras, the one in the gas station across the street and in the McDonald's, have been confiscated by the FBI. The footage of the truck blowing up, which was briefly shown, as a matter of fact, I believe on CNN, maybe once. Maybe it was ABC, but it was CNN, I think. I think that's who it was. It was in their hands at some point in time. But that tape is gone. I don't know what's on it. What else might be on it that could be beneficial? That's been confiscated. Again, I recall the old Kennedy assassination business, where everybody that had a film lost it, and we've lost it. It's gone. Contact your senator and congressman. Let's make an issue out of this. Thank you.
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
The new world order does not mean surrendering our national sovereignty or forfeiting our interests.
Have your eyes been blinded by the lies?
therefore seize this opportunity to fulfill the long-held promise of a new world order where brutality will go unrewarded.
Just in case you don't remember.